Hey guys, this is Ryan from Fitz's Fish Ponds. I'm back with more of an educational video this time. Today I'm going to show you how to backwash the new Evolution Aqua K1 filter. I know a lot of customers and even some of our employees have had questions about how to properly backwash these. So today I'm going to walk you through it and show you how it's done. First, let me give you a quick overview of the filter and how it's set up. We have our 4-inch pipe right here coming straight out of the bottom of our toe side tank, reducing down to 2-inch and going straight into our pump. From there, goes into the valve, through the filter, and then we just have it going right back out, back through the tank. This is the multi-port valve. I'm sure many of you are familiar with this. Standard on every bead filter that exists. You have your filter, rinse, recirculate, waste, closed, and backwash. And there we have our blower, which assists in agitating the media while we're backwashing it. Alright, so as you can see, I have my K Plus filter indoors, which makes things a little different than if you have it outside, but pretty much the same. Really, only difference is that where my backwash line is coming out, or the waste line, I just have to have a hose that runs all the way outside. So today we're going to do the full cleaning. There is a quick cleaning that's on the side of the filter, and then there's also the full cleaning, which is what I'm going to do. So the first step is to turn off my pump, which is plugged in here. And then if you have a valve on your intake, you want to turn that off, which, I'm assuming most of you have a valve on your intake. Then we are going to set our valve to rinse. Reach down, grab my plug here. Then I'm going to take my extension cord, plug it in. Open this up. And we're going to release or open the air bleeder valve here. This is so that air can be let out and it allows the media to churn a lot better rather than just having constant pressure in there. You'll get some media that stays on the top, and I know it's hard to hear over the blower, but this media, you could hear it churning in here. You should be able to hear it churning. Now we're gonna leave this for about 5 minutes. That's what it says in the manual. Sometimes I'll just leave it for like 3 minutes. Once you hear it churning up in there, it gets mixed up pretty good. And that's just dislodging all of the waste that's stuck in the media and mixing it up into the water so that when we turn the pump back on, it's gonna flush all of that out. And the reason we closed the valve is because if we didn't, then you'd have this dirty backwash water trying to flow back into the pond, and the blower would be pushing air back into the pond and bubbling up out of your bottom drain. You can see here just how nasty the water is. And this is just the blower pushing the water out. After this, we're gonna turn on the pump and flush it through with the pond water. All right, I'm gonna let this run for a couple more minutes and then we'll be back. All right, so it's been about 5 minutes. What I'm gonna do is unplug the blower and then quickly shut the valve. We wanna make sure that no water finds its way up into the blower. That's the most important part. Now, the air blower pushed most of the water out of this filter except for maybe, a third of it, which is what was churning up the media. So now we're going to open our bottom drain valve, our intake valve, and we're gonna set the valve to backwash, the multi-port valve to backwash, and that's gonna flow the water in kind of reverse through the bottom and start to flush some of this out. Now, I leave the air relief valve open like this because we push that water out, and if this isn't open, when we go to turn the pump back on, the pressure of the air is not going to allow the filter to fill completely back up. So we need to leave that open for now. So I'm going to, excuse the camera, I'm doing this one-handed. Plug in our pump. Again, make sure this is closed, because if I turn this pump on right now and this is open, you're gonna get water shooting out of your blower and possibly destroying it. So you could hear, if you listen closely, I don't know if you could pick it up on the video, you could hear the air hissing out of there as the water's pushing up in and displacing the air in the filter. So we're gonna wait. Sometimes I give it a little head start to take it all the way out. But we're gonna wait for the pump to fill this back up. You can see it's starting to come up. And this is mixing with all the waste and sediment we just churned up and sending it outside. Now it's filling up. We're gonna close this. You might get a little leak out. That's no big deal. And now let's see how dirty the water at the other end is. As you can see, our building's, not the best design for a pond store, but we make it work. And now you can see that water's coming out pretty nasty. We do backwash these on a regular basis, but I've seen these filters on customers' ponds where you backwash it and it just comes out, it looks like sludge, just dark brown mud. So these filters definitely do a great job of catching sediment and waste and debris. I'm gonna let that run down into our drain. And basically, we're gonna let this run for a few minutes until our sight glass is clear, or at least, the color of the pond water. Again, since we backwash these filters on a regular basis, it's not that bad in this case, but I'm sure many of you have had personal experiences with bead filters where this sight glass is just dark brown and you have to wait a while for it to clear up. So I'm gonna let this run about another minute. And then we'll go on to the next step. All right, I've let this run on backwash for a while. Now I'm going to unplug our pump again, because you never want to change the settings on the multi-port valve while the pump is running. It could cause damage to the valve. So just a good rule of thumb, if you're ever gonna move the position on the valve, just make sure the pump's off. Now I'll turn it to rinse. And this is going to send the water through the filter normally, like it's filtering it, but it's going to send it out the waistline instead of back into the pond. So basically, instead of coming into the bottom now, it's coming into the top, getting anything that may be left or built up in the system. So I'm gonna do my one-handed plug in here.
Good job.
And that's it. Now we're rinsing. As you can see, this is a store, so this tank is maybe 1,200 gallons, and we have, I don't even know, hundreds of fish in here, maybe 500 fish. So that's why we need such a big filter. And even with such a massive filter, I'm still doing, weekly water changes on this, at least 15%, sometimes more. So now we're rinsing. You can see there's still some sediment floating around in there. I'm gonna let this run for quite a while, just because these guys need a water change, and our stocking levels are a lot higher than usual. It can seem complicated, especially to someone who hasn't had experience with one of these filters, especially when you add the blower into the mix. But once you get the steps down and you understand what each thing is doing, then it makes it a lot easier. And each time you're doing this, goes without saying, you are removing water from the pond. So that's a good thing. It kind of forces you, when you clean the filter, to kind of give the pond a small water change as well, which a lot of people don't do, or they disregard. But in my opinion, I think it's a good idea to do at least a small water change once in a while for your pond, just to get some fresh water in there, get rid of some of the built up nitrates. Your fish will thank you for it. So I'm gonna let this run for a little while, and then we'll come back and finish up. All right, so I've let this run for about 5 minutes on rinse. And now we just have to do the last step, which is unplugging the pump one more time and turning our multi-port valve back to filter. And that brings it back to its default setting. And then we will plug the pump back in. And from unplugging the pump, you do get a little bit of a drop. So all you have to do is one more time, just loosen this up. Let it push the air out. And then once this fills to the top with water, you're all set. In all, if you're moving quick, the whole process takes maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes, so not a big deal at all. Once you get the steps down, it's really easy, and it's a great filter. But that's it for now. Next time, perhaps I will make a video on how to backwash the Nexus, because that can be a tricky one as well. Thank you guys for watching. If you learned anything from the video or you enjoyed it, please subscribe, like the video, and we hope to bring you more content like this in the near future.